Hello, my dear students. Welcome in the first segment of the chapter, The Modern World. The main highlights of today's session are the transition of world from medieval to modern period and Renaissance. But before going ahead with the events responsible for transition of dark middle age to prosperous modern period, we must know the periodization of history. For the better understanding of the events in chronological order, the historians classify history into three distinct periods as ancient, medieval, and modern. Did you know that each period is categorized on the basis of certain political, social, and economic characteristics specific to that period? For clear understanding of the periodization, it is must to know about the period of transition. So let's understand it. The progression of time from one period to another in history is called transition or transitional period. Did you know why the study of transitional period is important? Yes, it's important to understand why the previous period is ended and how and why the new one started. If we are going to explore the past, we would be surprised to know that in every country, historical periods differ depending on several factors particular to the region. Let's understand it in detail. The modern period in Europe started in 15th century. However, in India it started in 18th century with the advent of British. To your surprise, in the West, the modern period was associated with the forces of modernity as democracy, equality, liberty, scientific thinking and reasons, which contrasted with the medieval period. When we explore about the modern period of India, British rule was far removed from equality, liberty, and democracy. The period of British rule in India is therefore known as colonial period instead of modern period. Let's peep into history to understand the different sources of history. Historians reconstruct the modern age through various source materials which help in better understanding of this period. The historical materials are broadly classified into two groups as primary and secondary sources. What are primary sources? Primary sources consist of direct accounts from the people living during that period in history. Apart from this, official records, diaries, travelogues, autobiographies, newspapers, poetry, novel, audiovisual materials, archaeological artifacts, eyewitness accounts are also the part of primary sources. When we discuss about the secondary sources, it comprises the accounts of the period that are recorded by the people who study the primary sources to interpret it and arrive at certain conclusions about that period, such as articles, research papers, reports, etc. As we know that the modern age in Europe started in late 15th century and spanned over 300 years, let's discuss about the events responsible for the end of dark middle age and the beginning of the modern period in Europe. Modern age in Europe is associated with the certain events like decline of medieval feudalism, the rise of towns and cities, increase in trade and commerce, and rising consciousness of individual rights. Europe saw a series of new developments from the 14th century till about 16th century in the field of art, literature, science, and architecture. This period of the great revival and regeneration in Europe is known as Renaissance. What do we mean by the term Renaissance? Renaissance is a French word that means revival or rebirth. Let's explore the factors responsible for the spread of Renaissance in Europe. The story begins with the capture of Constantinople, the capital of Byzantine Empire or the Eastern Roman Empire, by Ottoman Turks in the year 1453. Constantinople at present is known as Istanbul, the largest port city of Turkey. Did you know how the capture of Constantinople added fuel to the spirit of Renaissance? Let's discover. As Constantinople was the center of learning of Roman Empire, it had numerous Greek scholars and intellects teaching Greco-Roman classics, evoking rational thinking. But this situation was totally changed with the fall of Constantinople, as many Greek scholars fled to different cities of Italy like Florence, Milan, and Venice, carrying with them rare classical manuscripts of Italy. What is manuscript? Manuscript is nothing but a book or document written by hand. Did you know what happened to the scholars in Italy? Let's find out. In Italy, they were patronized by the wealthy merchants. There, many libraries and universities were set up to promote classical and modern learning. As a result, now Italy became the new center of learning in Europe. Another important factor that boosted up the spread of Renaissance in Europe was the development of printing press. In 1440, Johannes Gutenberg of Germany developed the movable printing press. By 1500, there were about 1,000 printers throughout Europe. As a result of this, variety of books published included religious books like Bible, as well as Latin and Greek classics, legal handbooks, and the books on philosophy. The printing of books encouraged scholarly research, intellectual thinking, and at the same time, there was an increase in public desire towards gaining knowledge. As books were available for everyone, now the common people started showing interest towards gaining knowledge. That's all for today's segment. In the next segment, we would know about the characteristics of Renaissance, new discoveries, and Reformation movement.